Welcome to the Investment Banking Leaders Podcast, brought to you by the Investment Banking Leaders Club, your exclusive access to the industry's most successful leaders. These experts have closed thousands of deals, generating hundreds of billions of dollars, and they're here to share their strategies, insights, and leadership lessons that can fast-track your career. But the learning doesn't stop here. Join the Investment Banking Leaders Club at ibleadersclub.com for even more exclusive insights, leadership frameworks, and career accelerating resources and events. Thanks for joining us, and best of luck on your growth journey. I have another awesome guest for you today. I'm excited to be joined by a true innovator in the industry, John Stamatis. John is a managing director and co-head of North America at Howden Capital Markets and Advisory. He's been playing a pivotal role in building and leading the investment banking within the global insurance and reinsurance industry. Over the last decade, John has helped grow HCMA from its first hire to a nearly 50-person team, providing a full range of investment banking services with a unique focus on P&C insurance and reinsurance. His journey is far from traditional. Having started his career within the industry and started his banking career as an associate and accelerating through the ranks by embracing specialization, deep industry expertise, and a relentless focus on client service. So having got to know John, I learned that he's driven by exceptional client experiences, has an unbelievable expertise in the space, and is ambitious about HCMA's future growth plans. So I'm super excited to have him on today. So John, welcome to the Investment Banking Leaders Podcast, and thanks for joining us all.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the kind and exaggerated, in some cases, words.
Lovely. We like to start off on the right foot. So why don't you start with sharing what HCMA and the Howden Group more broadly do for your clients, John?
Yeah, sure. HCMA is a specialist investment bank, and we focus exclusively on the global insurance and reinsurance industry. And you can think of our business in three pillars. So the first and largest is M&A advisory, really anywhere throughout the insurance value chain. The second is our capital markets business, so equity, debt, everything in between. Within that, we also have a pretty large focus on new company formations and raising company for new businesses. And then the third pillar is our insurance-linked securities practice, structuring and distributing catastrophe bonds, reinsurance sidecars, other securitized forms of insurance risk. So we started HCMA almost exactly 10 years ago within a company called Tiger Risk, which grew to be, at the time we sold it to the Howden Group, the largest independent reinsurance intermediary globally. That business is now known as Howden Re and is one of the largest and probably the fastest growing reinsurance intermediary and advisory firms in the industry. And Howden Re is part of the Howden Group, which is a global insurance group that places about $42 billion of premium for 2024, 20,000 employees, and operates in retail insurance broking and specialist insurance broking, wholesale insurance broking, specialist underwriting, and then our reinsurance business that we sit within. That's a lot, but I thought the background would be helpful for anybody not familiar with our business. And if I had to sum it up, what we do, whether it's within the bank, whether it's throughout the broader organization, is we advise clients on matching risk with capital, right? So exclusive focus on insurance and reinsurance. We think of M&A, the capital markets, the reinsurance markets, the insurance markets, not as independent things that are all distinct from one another, but as part of one spectrum. And so we've built this business very deliberately to be integrated, holistic, and be able to provide clients in the insurance industry and the reinsurance industry with whatever solution they may need, as well as best execution around that solution. And not just think in terms of distinct products, but really what's the best holistic decision-making process that a client should go through.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm sure we'll get more into the integration and holistic approach as we go through the interview. And congrats. 10-year milestone is something to be really proud of, and congrats on that and the success. Exciting times ahead. And as I said at the start, I know you're ambitious, so I'm sure we'll hear more about that again later today too. As I mentioned in the intro, you didn't take the typical path into investment banking. You started at that associate level rather than an analyst. And you shared with me, you almost crammed that 3 to 5 years of learning into a much shorter space of time. Can you walk us through your early career and how you navigated the rapid learning curve?
Yeah, sure. Not only did I take a non-traditional path in, but we also really started this business 10 years ago from the studs up in terms of the investment bank, right? So part of the answer on how I made that transition was just it was very hard work. And not only were we in the banking industry, which is demanding work to begin with, but also we were building a real business, and that took focus on all of the other operational and other kind of basic fundamental stuff that goes into that. But on the other hand, coming from within the industry, I think it was extremely valuable to have gotten to live within an insurance business and then go cover one from a banking and an advisory perspective. Because we often say to new hires that there's a corporate finance aspect of what we do, and there's the insurance aspect of what we do. And in a lot of ways, from a technical standpoint, the insurance aspect is the more difficult and the more arcane aspect of the work that we do, and is the source of the real differentiation that we do. So I think coming from within the industry in some ways was a big leg up, right? And having that perspective, I think over time has made me a better advisor than somebody who started in banking and just ended up focusing on insurance by happenstance. So we've made a lot of really great hires throughout the journey from within insurance and reinsurance industries, and many of whom are some of our best and most valuable team members now.
Amazing. I can understand what hard work goes without saying. And then I guess that knowledge base that you had, as you said, gave you that leg up and that opportunity to develop quicker. And you mentioned you joined a year ago and built the investment banking industry into the market leader it is today. So what was the vision at the start, and how did you approach just scaling the team?
So look, the vision at the start is the same as the vision now, right? Which is it's to create and build the highest quality and most differentiated insurance investment banking operation in the world, right? And that is a process, not an outcome. And we're continually challenging ourselves on what that means and what we need to do to achieve that. We've made a lot of progress. We're not there yet, but we're very proud of what we've done. And in terms of scaling the team, I'd say a relentless focus on maintaining the culture of high standards of performance, integrity, analytical thinking, and other sort of non-negotiables that we've identified within the team has been our North Star. And that means, one, we make real investments in junior people, and a lot of our best senior people now were once our best junior people 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. And two, we've been extraordinarily selective around external senior hires, right? And we've not chased growth or product expansion for its own sake, but added products, geographic capabilities, whatever it may be, when and as needed, and only after a very deliberate process to make sure that we are growing the team in the right way.
Makes sense. So yeah, that relentless focus on the culture, investment in juniors, bringing them through as the future leaders, which you've obviously had a lot of success in, and being selective on who you bring in and growth. So thanks for sharing that. It makes a lot of sense into how you can scale a great team. And you mentioned in your intro, you emphasized the strategic integration of investment banking with the broader Howden Group. So can you share a bit about how this model enhances the client relationships and I guess creates new opportunities across the business as well?
One thing that we have emphasized as we've grown the business from Tiger Risk was about 100 employees when I joined. Now we're part of a 20,000 employee group, is that everyone within the company, be it within the investment bank or a reinsurance operation or whatever it might be, is a risk capital and strategic advisor to insurance and reinsurance industry clients, right? We are very focused on building a best-in-class investment bank, but we're also conscious of the fact that we are part of a broader organization and that our clients may not always need a banking solution and may sometimes need a reinsurance solution or an alternative risk transfer solution or whatever it may be. We are able to differentiate by collaborating with our colleagues and thinking about those products not as distinct silos, but as part of an overall spectrum. For a given client, the need may be to lay off risk by raising capital or to lay off risk by executing a reinsurance transaction. Our goal is to be there for that client whenever they need that solution and really be able to execute it on it in the best way.
Yeah, I love that. And I can understand why having different solutions available and not just focusing only on the banking solution can be really useful for your clients. You talked about collaboration, big organization as well. So have you got any Any tips or tactics on how you really foster that tight collaboration that you need to be able to be across all the products and offer the right solution to clients?
Yeah, look, I think part of it again is, it sounds simple, but it's really not, is just culture, right? And impressing upon people from early in their careers with us that our secret sauce is that collaboration, again, both within the bank, right? Because we do offer a number of products and services within the bank, but probably more importantly, outside the bank, right? And from the perspective of the investment bank, right, we're probably one of the largest teams on the street that does what we do. But not only are we a 40-person investment bank, 50-person investment bank today, but we've got thousands of experts behind us and throughout the group who have the relationships, expertise, et cetera, that our clients are looking for. We really, I'll just repeat, from the early stages of our junior people's careers, impress upon them that what really differentiates us is being able to bring that broader capability.
Super. And I want to move a bit more into the talent and culture, because you've spoken a lot about it already, and I can see that it's core to some of the success that you've had, or a big part of the success you've had. So you talked about building HCMA with a long-term mindset, and not just for clients, but for your people too. If we look at internships and junior hiring, how has this played a big role in your talent pipeline?
Yeah. So we're very focused on it, right? And we want to hire people because what we do is so specialized. We look to hire people for the long haul, right? And I think banking in a lot of regards, at a lot of places, has become a stopping point to do other things. We want to bring people on who genuinely want to do this over the long term as a career and offer them an experience that makes them want to continue doing it, right? That means investing in training for interns, analysts, other junior people on an ongoing basis. That means giving people opportunities at more junior levels than might be the case elsewhere. And that means even really down at the intern level. I think our internship program is phenomenal. We give our interns probably more exposure to real deal work than they might get elsewhere. And one, I think that allows us to ascertain, it gives us a longer interview process than your typical analyst interview process. And two, it gives them an experience that's distinctive and really is a good litmus test as to whether they want to grow from within beyond that.
I love that approach, and it makes a lot of sense. I hear again and again from leaders who progressed quickly at the start of their career. It came a lot from exposure and actually acquiring more skills. We know investment banking is an apprenticeship, right? It's about doing the reps. So the earlier you get them in, the quicker you can progress. We do a similar thing when we hire at Outram. We actually bring someone in and have them spend a fair amount of time before we make any offers with the team, so they really understand the work that they're getting into and what's expected of them. And I know you're really proud of the Howden University initiative, which is, I think, a super unique approach to talent development. Can you share with the listeners what the Howden Uni initiative is and what its impact is from your perspective?
So something we started at Tiger Risk 7 or 8 years ago, and what it is, every summer, all new hires from throughout the group, whether it's junior, senior, anywhere in between, spend a week offsite. The banking analysts, the new class of analysts, doesn't just do banking training, but immersive exposure to senior executives from throughout Howden Re, training on the reinsurance side, training on actuarial concepts, and training on catastrophe modeling concepts and the like. And really get just a full week, intense, immersive experience on what everything we do throughout the Howden Re organization is. And one, going back to the point on collaboration, I think that's very important from a foundational standpoint to get to know and build those relationships with other folks who are starting in the business at the same time you are, regardless of level. But two, it emphasizes the importance of, again, technical understanding and really understanding what we do, not just within in the investment bank, but throughout the reinsurance organization.
That's powerful. I've spoken to a lot of leaders and I haven't heard of something like that in place, whether that's because they're not in place or they are and they don't talk to them or talk about them as passionately as you. But I can see how that's so powerful, right? Building that knowledge, building the skills, connecting with the team, the culture, relationship building with your colleagues. And again, I think that feeds into that collaboration we spoke about and how you're able to provide your clients the right solutions across the whole organization. I know that you're also involved in developing VPs into producing MDs. We have a lot of VPs that listen to this show. What does that transition look like? And how do you coach future leaders to take on more responsibility?
Yeah, look, so I tell all of my reports that my job is to help them do my job as soon as they can, right? Because that means we can continue growing the business and I can move on and do more interesting things and they can move on and do more interesting things. And look, I think part of it is making sure that VPs, associates, whatever, are getting the right amount of client or enough client exposure throughout the work that they're doing and thinking, one, me and other senior bankers thinking proactively about that, but two, encouraging them that it is a two-way street, right? And part of your own career development is what you make of it. And so ensuring that not just that we're giving people the opportunity to go do something, but we're actually proactively pushing them to push themselves to get those opportunities and get those reps in client-facing situations, and in some cases, independent client-facing situations. And as we think about that transition, one, the insurance industry and the reinsurance industry is a huge industry with many players of varying types and sizes. The senior team is not going to come anywhere near covering that whole universe the way that we want to focus on our trusted relationships. So part of it is just lateral growth into different specialties where we might have where we may not have expertise today, or supplementing coverage in an area of the market that we're a little underweight, and starting to build those client relationships in a way that is accretive to the firm. And part of it is just setting the right goals, right? So sitting here at the beginning of the year, we're going through this process right now, but making sure that people are being deliberate about thinking about production and thinking about building client relationships rather than just checking off that they attended a meeting here and there.
Yeah, I love that. And again, client exposure is the key there, isn't it? And like you say, doing the reps is the only way to really master it. And I like the fact that you mentioned that there's a proactive requirement as well, right? From the VPs looking to take that step into real leadership roles where they've got to go and find that part of the market where there's gains. So again, thanks for sharing. We've stopped in talent and culture for a while, and this is a leadership podcast. So I want to talk a little bit about leadership and also client coverage. I know that's one of your key responsibilities, and I know you shared with me bringing ideas, understanding client needs, and building relationships at the highest level is a key part of what you do day to day. It would be remiss of me not to capture some of that for our audience. So what's your approach to building long-term trusted relationships with clients?
I think about this in a few dimensions. One, and the easy part, is just showing up and being there. It sounds simple and stupid, but being there in person with clients and really just building a personal relationship matters. But two, I think more important, particularly given the nature of what we do, is thinking genuinely proactively and genuinely rigorously about what are the ideas, opportunities, and challenges that are relevant to a given client, right? Because I think it's easy to maintain a relationship and ping somebody when there's something that's publicly for sale or whatever it may be, and be one of several bankers doing that. I think it's an entirely different and more difficult ball game to think, one, genuinely understand clients' businesses the way that they think about it and the things that are relevant to them. And then two, what are maybe the less obvious or more innovative ideas or transactions or whatever it might be that are genuinely accretive to their business that others may not be thinking about, right? And so I think living and dying by bringing ideas. I love hearing from a client, hey, that's the first time anybody's ever suggested that, right? Because it means that we are thinking about things in a different way. And then third, again, it sounds simple, but it really matters. Just delivering best execution and giving people an amazing experience on the transaction side. We're very fortunate to have had lots of repeat business from repeat clients and created relationships that have led to multiple banking transactions, but also, again, become broader relationships multi-million dollar reinsurance relationships of the firm through work that we've done as the bank. And we talk all the time about hunting on the farm, right? Like, how do we leverage close client relationships that we already have to continually help those businesses grow, improve, become more profitable, whatever it might be.
Love that, hunting on the farm. I'll take that one for the team here at Outram. Really nice expression. And it makes sense, right? Showing up, building that personal relationship, being proactive, ideas, looking at challenges, opportunities, really understanding their business and their needs, and then delivering on execution. Before I jump into client experience, really understanding their business. Is that you questioning the client, being really curious, learning? Is it research you're doing? Let's unpack that a little bit, if you will.
Yeah, look, so I think that the most effective way to go about it is, there's lots and lots of public information available, particularly in the insurance industry, which is a very regulated insurance industry, right? So you've got public companies who file financials, earnings call transcripts, whatever it might be, and there's a wealth of information that's public about our clients. The last thing that we want to do is ask a question on a piece of information that is very much public, or ask the same question that an analyst asked on a recent call is one thing. There's also, because of how regulated the industry is, there's lots of public financial information available beyond the regular sort of public filing information. And so we have a really interesting opportunity to really get to know our clients' businesses, what's making them tick, what's maybe making them not tick so well, before we ever sit down with them in the first place. And I think doing that prep work and putting in the hard yards on really getting close to the metal on products, challenges, et cetera, that are affecting our clients' businesses is really important. And then, part of it is just maintaining an ongoing dialogue and latching onto things that clients are talking about. And whether it's, I'd really like to get into a given product line, or I'd love to be able to get rid of this underperforming part of my business, or whatever it is. I think just listening to those things and proactively thinking about, all right, what are the solutions that they may not be thinking about? What are the interesting deals that may be on the radar that they may not be thinking about, et cetera. Again, just constantly thinking in innovative terms and trying to bring people ideas that they haven't thought of themselves and others haven't thought of for them.
So it's nice to get a sense of where your head's at in terms of the research that you do, and not wanting to ask the questions that you have access to the answers, but then also listening. So thanks for sharing. And we went back before we went on to execution, but I learned about the amazing client experience, or the ACE philosophy, which is central to HCMA's execution strategy. So can you share, what does this mean in practice? And more importantly, how do you ensure every client walks away with a top tier experience?
Yeah. So ACE is something that has its roots in Tiger Risk, and is something that our founder and senior executives have talked about relentlessly, right? And I think the driver behind it is that we're a specialist. People don't hire us because they have to, because there's some other broader relationship with the firm. They hire us because they want to, and because they believe we will give them a better outcome and better execution than our competitors will, right? Again, some of it is just, ruthless focus on the blocking and tackling of executing a transaction, thinking ahead, anticipating pitfalls, all of they're cliches for a reason, right? But they matter, right? I think part of it is we maintain, in almost all cases, pretty heavy senior involvement in execution of deals, which allows us to make sure that we are consistently giving the best thinking and the benefit of all the experience of the firm to our clients. So we're not handing off transactions to junior bankers to go and execute and get whatever deal can be done. We are constantly thinking every step of the way from the top down on what is the best next step, what's the best answer for this client. And then part of it is some of the more distinctive non-deal stuff that we do, whether that's just throwing great closing dinners, or we do events throughout the year where we bring together, whether it's different groups of investors or different groups of clients and thought leaders from throughout the organization, to talk about specific topics. One thing that we're really proud of is we throw an annual ski outing, which is actually coming up in a couple weeks. And something that literally 364 days of planning goes into. The first thing that we do after every event concludes is a debrief call the next day and start planning for the next year's event. And that's 80 or 90 insurance CEOs, reinsurance CEOs, senior private equity investors, other industry participants. And every minute of the event is meticulously planned, from how and where and when people get picked up at the airport to how they then get dropped off, right? And everything in between. So something that we're really proud of, and I think encapsulates the idea of just the amazing client experience that we try to bring to all of our clients through all of our transactions.
Thanks for the insight. It's nice to get into your head as to how you've gone about that. And it's an impressive philosophy, and relentless focus, senior focus, or attention in the execution, thoughtful dinners. I know we've had the pleasure of creating some really unique deal toys for you as well. I know that's something you put pride into for your clients, give them something special. Events, and the ski event sounds like great fun. And who wouldn't want to be brought together with a good group and thought leaders as well? Yeah, thanks for sharing. Talk a little bit about industry evolution now and opportunities. We're early, still relatively early in 2025, although it's flying by. Looking ahead, what do you see as the biggest opportunities for advisory firms within the industry?
Yeah, look, so I think this is a slightly self-serving comment, but specialty and special, right, will continue to matter more and more, right? And as the world has gotten smaller, as knowledge has become more commoditized, that knowledge, not experience, but knowledge has become more commoditized. The value of simply knowing people is I think gone down. The value of just, basic deal execution has gone down, and the value of, genuine expertise, of the ability to think analytically and abductively about your clients' businesses. So not just what are they doing and what do they think they want to do, what should they want to do? And that comes from experience and expertise, has gone up probably exponential, right? And so that's how we're thinking about growth of the business, and just really leaning into that specialization and the way that we can give distinctive advice and give our clients a distinctive experience.
Yeah, it's interesting because I speak to many leaders every week, and specialization and expertise really seems to be the hot topic at the moment. You've obviously been playing in that space for a while. You got on that bandwagon very early with your specialization within the industry. So super interesting. And I guess we're seeing a lot of industry consolidation with investment banking as well. So what does that mean for boutique investment banks like HCMA, and how do you stay competitive against larger players?
Yeah, look, I think it's just what I just said, right? Like, we want to continue leaning into specialization, because that expertise is extraordinarily difficult to replicate, and it's not something that you can recreate with economies of scale, right? We're not the U.S. Army, right? We consider ourselves the special forces at the end of the day, right? And there will always be a place for larger banks that offer a wide range of services, but we think that we offer people something genuinely distinctive, and that is, again, going to just be our center of gravity as we move forward, is how do we continually offer something differentiated to clients that they want, and not just feel like they have to work with us because of who the organization is.
Makes sense. And we all obviously know AI is reshaping many industries, and you've mentioned a few minutes ago that knowledge itself is being commoditized. So interested to get your thoughts on how you see AI impacting investment banking, and where does human expertise remain irreplaceable in your opinion?
Yeah, look, so we're first, I think conceptually, there is lots of, I will call, non-thinking work that feels like it should be low-hanging fruit for LLMs or AI agents or whatever we want to call it. When you just think about putting presentations together and running basic analyses and things like that. So we are really early days, but thinking about what that looks like broadly at the organization, and we have some AI enhanced tools that, just to give a few examples, some of the presentation work that we do in terms of putting the finishing touches on things. We have some AI tools that we use for that. We do use AI to digest, summarize, etc., industry research, call transcripts. We take the very rote work of an analyst going through that and typing up notes and give them time to go back and do actual thought work, right? Which is, I think, where the industry is headed. And then, look, over time, I still think that one, genuine relationships matter, right? This is financial investment banking is ultimately in large part about trust, and financial services is in large part about trust. And it's very difficult to replicate trust, even over a virtual call, in my mind, let alone with an AI or a non-human thinker. And then two, again, the reasoning that comes from experience, right? And being able to update your thought processes as you learn new information and the industry evolves. I am not an AI expert, right? But I've read a lot of work by people who are, and I think that's the last bastion of job security from AI, right? Is genuine abductive reasoning, genuine ability to think. One of my favorite anecdotes, I forget where I picked it up, is that obviously decades ago, the best AIs could beat the best human chess players at chess, but the best human chess players with an AI by their side destroy the best AI chess models. So I think that idea that technology will continue to enhance what we do and create more time and bandwidth to lean into those specialties that are very difficult to replace is, again, just really how we're thinking about this going forward.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. That genuine relationships, that trust. Investment banking is a people business at the end of the day, and they pay more so for anything that your clients are looking for your brain, and that's the key. So yeah, thanks for the anecdote. I like that too. Very, very smart. February 2025, when we're recording this, it will go out next month, March. So what's your take? I think we spoke and you were quite optimistic about this year. So what are the trends that are giving you optimism about the market environment ahead?
Yeah. Look, one, I'm always optimistic about the year ahead, because why not be optimistic? What's the point? But look, I think a couple things. One, we are within the insurance industry, right? The market is in a very interesting place in that we've now hit a bit of an equilibrium in the post Hurricane Ian, post financial market volatility experience of 2022 and 2023, post the sharpest Fed hiking cycle in decades, all of which took several years to play out and normalize throughout the industry. But, right, you've got the specter of climate change and the knock-on effects of that, right? And so whether it's the California wildfires that are burning right now being a 30, 40, $50 billion industry event, whether that's historic levels of things like tornadoes and hailstorms and all of the events that maybe people don't think about. People tend to think about, okay, when's a big hurricane going to hit? When's a big earthquake going to happen? Lots of the aggregate industry losses that sort of drive all the volatility in what we do have come away from those perils and away from those reaches, right? How do we think about just the changing global landscape and global risk? And in a perverse way, more volatility in the world does create opportunities for us to shine and provide solutions that benefit insurers, reinsurers, and ultimately what we do at the end of the day is, I'll just go back to the original point I made at the top of the call. Like we help insurance industry clients match risk with the optimal and lowest cost form of capital. That ultimately means that they can offer the most competitive prices to policyholders, to businesses, et cetera, right? We try to maintain that perspective that what we do matters even more in an increasingly risky world. And we are not by any stretch of the imagination on the front lines of really doing good in the world every day, but we also do provide a very valuable service to global economies, and what we do has a real world impact to a lot of people. So I think that's something that I think we feel good about. And I think that opportunity to continue to think innovatively in an increasingly risky world is something that really excites me and excites us.
That's it, real purpose. And again, like the optimism, almost positivity there, John, we slipped into as well. So let's see what happens in the next few months. I always ask our guests, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice when you were starting out, what would it be?
It's a great question. And look, I would say that, and I'd give this advice to folks on the team as well, right? But just, I think that you're at any given point, you're more capable of but you're capable of more than you believe you are capable of, right? And I think particularly in banking, which is very hierarchical in nature, and that hierarchy serves a purpose, right? But I think it's easy to fall into the trap of, I'm an associate, I should only be really thinking about it, quote unquote, associate things, right? Or I'm a VP, I should only be thinking about VP things, and thinking earlier in my banking career about, all right, what do I need to do now to have really great client relationships in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and where do I have genuine skills that actually are valuable to clients? And that doesn't mean that junior bankers should take it upon themselves to go call a client CEO who they've never met. But I do think that just that perspective and self-awareness that you are very often more capable of what you may think you are, or what your title may suggest or whatever, I think is a great mentality to have as you build your career.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love that. And I think it comes back to owning your career path, right? Playing at the role above, I hear a lot. Getting a mentor. So I think one of the reasons why mentorship early in your career, who can see that extra value or that give you that extra push, is so important. Believe it or not, we're moving towards the wrap now, John. So a couple of last questions. I'm a believer that as our readers, it doesn't have to be books these days, let's be honest, with podcasts and all the other materials out there. But what do you recommend that's had a big impact on you in your career?
Yeah. So some of my friends give me crap about this, but I'm a voracious audiobook reader, and I count that as reading. Some people don't, but look, I think that from a career perspective, right, I think probably the most impactful thing I've read is a book called So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. And the thesis of that is basically, this is a very flippant way of putting it, but following your passions is terrible career advice. And career enjoyment and career gratification comes from expertise and leaning into whatever you're doing and being distinctive and building something that's unique for yourself, right? I think lots of people, particularly, again, you mentioned you have a lot of junior bankers. I think people come into their careers with this preconceived notion of what a successful career looks like, and feel if they're deviating from that, they've failed, right? Most 22-year-olds don't have perfect visibility on where they'll be, when they're 30, 35, 40, whatever it is. And having that mentality that whatever you are doing, aim to be the best at it and take the chance to create something special is something that's been very powerful. And I read a lot of nonfiction. I think probably the most compelling thing, thought-provoking thing I've read is a book called The Accidental Superpower by Peter Zion, geopoliticist, just talking about geopolitics, the impact of demographics on geopolitics. Just a fascinating, very thought-provoking, somewhat scary read, but one that I would definitely recommend to people as the world continues to get riskier in a lot of ways.
Love that. Expertise and accidental superpowers. So we'll definitely pop those in the show notes for listeners who are interested in picking it up. And one final question before we leave today, John. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Yeah, this one matters quite a lot to me. And it's from my father, who's led an extraordinary life to date. I'm first generation American on my father's side. And his advice that he always imparted on me was, whatever you are doing, take pride in it and do the best job that you can on it, right? So whether that's something small, something big, just always hold yourself to the standards of your own capability. And I think that's served me extremely well throughout my career, right? Because when you're a junior banker moving footnotes around or reorganizing logos, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, hey, this is stupid and I don't want to do this, but just really taking pride in every step of the work and thinking about how that influences the bigger picture, I think has just been a really powerful North Star for me personally. Again, I think that's something we try to impart on the team, just take pride in every single step of the work and good things will happen.
I love that. What a fantastic way to end today's show. Father's advice, good advice. And I really understand now a lot about how all this ties in, a lot of the things we've spoken about today. So John, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your experience. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
All right. Thanks, Peter.
Take care, John. This episode of the podcast was brought to you by the Investment Banking Leaders Club. And to keep leveling up your career, join the club at ibleadersclub.com for exclusive insights, leadership strategies, and career growth resources straight from the industry's top professionals. I want to say thanks to our key partner, Outram, the global leader in financial deal gifts, awards, and recognition, for their ongoing support of our mission to empower both aspiring and senior investment banking leaders. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, best of luck on your growth journey.